Do you think that a windfall tax would end fuel poverty? Farage at gbnews.uk. You can send me your thoughts and your answers. Well, joining me on this is Tom Burke, chairman of E3G, and you've been government advisor on climate and Greenpeace and many, many other things over the years. So, Tom, tell me straight, do you support a windfall tax?
I absolutely do. And the thing to remember about it is these are unearned profits. This wasn't companies investing, putting hard work in, lots of skills, lots of risk taking in order to make these profits. Things happened in the world and they found themselves in a very good position, and they've picked up the benefits of that. They will certainly feed into the bonuses of their leading executives, and that's come out of all those people who can't afford to pay for energy right now. It's come out of their pockets. That's where that profit's coming from. So it's a very good idea to put it back in the pockets of the people.
In 2020, they lost money. I mean, the oil prices collapsed in 2020. These firms all lost money. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. But actually, there's been investment. There's been a lot of skill, a lot of risk in developing many of these offshore sites. So, it swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
You're absolutely right about that. And you know what about the oil companies? They already pay 30% corporation tax. And do you know what that means? It means that the taxman pays BP and Shell a refund every year because they offset against that their money they invest in cleaning up the mess they've made in the North Sea. So I'm going to find it very hard to feel sorry for the oil companies.
Well, I was making a more generic point about business rate taxes going up 30% in this country, and that's what worries me. The mood music of all of this worries me. So you think it's a great idea, but what about my idea? What about saying to them, look, why not reinvest this in new offshore and onshore production?
I'll tell you what, we live in a consumption-driven economy, and if you want to make this economy do really well, then put money back in people's pockets, and they'll spend it on the things they need, and that really will give the economy a boost. Whereas investing in energy developments, investing in the kind of energy developments oil companies do, will take a long time before you see any benefit from it. What would be a really good idea would be to use the money from a windfall tax to actually really drive forward in the way the government promised to do but hasn't delivered on energy efficiency, because that'll help get people's bills down in the long run as well as short run.
If we aimed for energy independence, right, and let's face it, I know how you feel on this, but let's face it, we're going to need gas, some coal and oil for many, many years to come. If we asked these people to reinvest those profits, aimed at energy independence, we'd create tens of thousands of well-paid jobs, there'd be more money for the exchequer, and we'd end the risk after what we've seen in Russia of having to import things from other countries.
I'm completely in favour of doing things that reduce our dependence on imported fuels. Absolutely right. We've got to stop importing them anyway, so the sooner we can get on with doing that, the better. The best way to do that would be to take that money and actually get somebody like National Grid to do what it's doing brilliantly in America right now, working with local government, local authorities to insulate houses street by street so that you end up really improving our independence, because you take away the demand and you do something for people's bills. Right now, I think that's a really good thing.
Look, I'm not arguing against efficiency, but the fact is we import 50% of the gas that we use, and even better insulation isn't going to deal with a very large chunk of that problem. And one other point, I'm going to raise this with you, Tom. You talk about putting money back in people's pockets, but the truth is millions of people have private pension provision, all right, company schemes as well, or whatever else it may be. And really, this is actually an attack on people's pensions, isn't it?
I'm one of them, so if I was worried about this being an attack on people's pensions...
Well, maybe you're very well off and you don't need to worry about it.
I wish. I'm not very well off. But I'm not worried about that because I know my pension fund is actually well managed and it has diverse sources. It's not dependent entirely on oil dividends for its revenues. It's required...
But if we super taxed oil and gas, right, as this is the proposal that you're in favour of, or call it whatever word you want, windfall tax, then who knows? I mean, are we saying as a country that we'll bail out failing businesses, because we've seen that since 2008, and we'll tax to the blazes any success? Is that a good model?
Hang on, Nigel, you're overgeneralising. This is an idea to tax, a one-off tax, maybe for a year, maybe possibly for two, but not for longer. It's not a general tax forever and all the problems that you're talking about. It's a one-off tax to get back the money that's being taken out of people's pockets by simply by events beyond anybody's control. I just think what would be a much better idea with the oil companies to give it back to the people direct.
And what about
that might be even a better
what
way.
about big pharma? Should there be a windfall tax on big pharma? I mean, after the money they've made.
I'm not trying to do tax policy. I'm an environmentalist. I'm just talking about what I think would be
But you
good
see the danger of this. The danger of this is if you open the door to the concept of windfall taxes on the successful parts of the British economy, it's a very slippery slope.
I think you're right about some of the dangers there, but there are other dangers which worry me more. And that's the loss of social cohesion, because we're getting more and more divided internally. Wealthy people are getting wealthier, and poorer people are getting poorer. And actually, that's a real threat to this country in the long run. And this is a measure that could help us deal with that.
As we head towards 40% fuel poverty, and for those that don't know, fuel poverty is defined as more than 10% of your disposable income being spent on energy. The boss of E.ON thinks that could be 40% by the autumn of this year. So, look, none of us are underestimating how serious this is. But Tom, final point on this. It's only going to raise a couple of billion. It won't make any difference, really, would it, anyway?
Say that to the people who are having to choose between eating and heating. It's going to make difference to them.
But you and I both know, if we tax these companies, it goes into the general coffers and gets lost.
Well, no, it's really simple. It's straightforward, and people will be quite right to mistrust government on this. But you do that by...
It happens.
Yeah. The way you do that is you just make sure that money goes directly into universal credit, as incidentally, by the way, former Tory party leader was arguing for the other day. You put it into universal credit and right away, and it goes right back to the people. So you can easily see whether however much they raise, they put that back in universal credit, which goes directly to the most disadvantaged people. Those 40%.
The estimate I got was all this would raise is a couple of billion, which sounds like a lot of money, but actually spread amongst the country, it's not very much. I have a sense, Tom Burke, that there is a tide of support for your argument, and that probably Boris will buckle. And I thank you for coming on and engaging in this debate.
My pleasure.
Thank you.